Hi, folks. All right, let me get Avery in here. Invite Avery Segal. All right. If anybody's tuning in yet, let me know below if you can hear me okay. All right. Hi to everyone joining. My name's Alaine. We're doing a takeover now for the Yes Abroad alumni. All right. I've just invited Avery, another alum, to join me. Let me know down below if you're able to hear me okay, or give me a wave if everybody can hear just fine. Hey, Avery.
Let's see. Hey, Elaine.
Cool. All right. You look similar to how I remember you.
Do I? You as well. Yeah. It
Yeah,
was. It,
2011. It's been 10 years.
holy cow.
Holy cow, right? Actually, yeah, maybe I thought it would be cool if we kind of waited to do the catch up until now because like it just struck me today that I was at your selection camp in 2011
hmm
because there was a gap in the funding from my year to yours. Um, so yeah, maybe yeah, you go ahead and introduce yourself first.
Sure. And yeah, so great to see you again. So, hello everyone. Great to, see some familiar faces and see some not so familiar ones as well. I'm Avery Siegel. I participated in Yes Abroad in 2011 to 12. I went to Ghana and spent a gap year in between high school and college there. Um, and I currently live in Los Angeles, and we can probably get more into it later.
Cool.
Um, Elaine, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah. So my name's Elaine. I'm doing the takeover on the Yes Abroad account now, but my other Instagram is Insane Elaine. So I was hosted as part of the pilot program year in 2009, 2010 to Thailand. So I was a freshman in high school when I applied, was like very fresh. And so it's been really cool to see the program grow over the last 11 years, 12 years, 11 years.
Yep.
Um, yeah, so I was hosted in southern Thailand. And then after that, I lived in Asia and Africa for a while, and now I'm actually back in DC. And actually, at this moment, I'm at the Change Makers. It's the first Yes conference that they've had in person since the pandemic. So actually, I'm seeing people here I know from like AFS Philippines, AFS Malaysia. So it's kind of a trip. But yeah, this is the first in-person event that they've had.
That's exciting. Literally right now.
Yeah, see,
Wow.
this is the Westin Hotel in Alexandria.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess kind of we just wanted to host this. I mean, it's cool because like I got to see you like, literally 10 years ago on the selection, but I don't think I actually got to catch up with you like how the experience was in Ghana.
Yeah, no, totally. So adding a little bit more color in terms of my experience, I was hosted in Accra, the capital and largest city, and it was very much, unforgettable like experience that I think I still am learning from to this day. Um, there's parts of my experience that I still feel like I reflect upon, and I feel like I'm still growing essentially. So I was, living with a host family as part of the Yes Abroad experience. I attended a local high school, and then I kind of, this is to speed through a year, but I ended up attending cooking school as well, and ended up at the end of the
Wow.
year.
In
Uh,
Ghana or like when you came back home?
no, in Ghana, I did like 8 hours a day, 3 days a week.
Wow.
Um,
What was your favorite thing to make? Because I went there and I tried la fufu.
oh yeah, fufu.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, my favorite thing to make was definitely it's called omotuo, and peanut butter or groundnut soup. It's like just this delicious combination of like slightly, you add too much water to the rice, so then it gets extra soft, and then you form it into balls and you dip it in this wonderful palm oil peanut butter concoction that has either goat or chicken. It's just incredible.
It sounds like very nutritious and like comfort food.
Yeah, and it takes advantage of, all the ingredients that grow locally in Ghana, as a lot of the cuisine does. So it's
Yeah.
actually difficult to recreate here in the US, from my experience.
Yeah, when we were doing like icebreakers here with the students, we were talking about like a food that we missed from home when we were on our exchange. So I realized like I had missed Kraft macaroni and cheese when I was in Thailand. And so at the end of the year, I had a care package sent to me and I had a box sent of Kraft macaroni and cheese. And I was so excited to make it for my friends and my host family. And then they're like, this has no taste. And then I was like, they're kind of right. Like after eating spicy Thai food for a year, it was
Yeah.
like, this is really bland, but I loved it because it's what, the comfort food I grew up with.
Hmm. I that's hilarious. Like I can just imagine just like hyping it up as an American, then going over and it's like, you know, probably is like tasteless noodles to them.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. Just like tasteless, creamy noodles.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, so what did you do after, like kind of like what has been your journey since then?
Yeah, and I'd probably love to ask you the same question. That's probably a great just segue, given, we're seasoned alums now, I would say. So
Veterans.
veterans, yes. So got back from Ghana, knew I wanted to do something international or globally oriented. Studied at the University of Florida, history, and over the course of studying history, every student started taking a foreign language. I picked Chinese, and it the more I studied Chinese, the more I loved it. And so I eventually lived in China for just north of 2 years, on and off, from 2017 to 2020, and really fell in love with the language, with the culture, and wanted to just go as deep as possible. So I ended up getting my master's in social sciences and realized academia wasn't for me. So I actually moved to the Bay Area, joined a venture capital firm, and I've been well, for much of the last 3 years, I've been helping out analyzing Chinese apps.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
so
What's
I
the name of
did,
the company?
yeah, I mean, so that right now it's currently my side hustle. I still, my new job is actually as a product manager here at a startup called SnackPass. We do mobile ordering and takeout, and I actually take a lot of my inspirations from my quote unquote side hustle and I apply it to the real world. So, um, for instance, in China, social ordering, group buying is a huge phenomenon. And it's,
Yeah, that's true. It is a thing in Asia. Yeah,
yep.
like the whole block where I lived, they would order together and then yeah,
Hmm. Yeah.
disperse.
Yeah. So in my job now, I'm bringing that in similar innovations to the US. So I was behind like a group ordering feature for our platform, where you order with your friends at restaurants, and the more friends that order, the bigger the discount you get, and it's a really fun social experience. And that was very much inspired by my time in Asia, which ultimately originated from spending time abroad with Yes Abroad.
Right. Sorry, just checking the comment. We have an angel here studying and saw the live stream in Bulgaria. Bulgaria's
Ooh.
food, yeah, I mean, it's definitely not like Thai food or anything. So I lived with a Bulgarian for 7 years, the last 7 years. So I learned a lot about the Balkans and Bulgaria through that. But I would say there's one dish that is just, it's so well done. It's so fresh. It's called shopska salad. Have you had it, Avery?
I have not, no.
So it's basically just like very chopped but fresh cucumbers, tomatoes, feta cheese, and I think like one or two other things. But everywhere in the Balkans fights over it. They're like, no, it's ours. It's originally ours. And then the Turks are like, no, it was originally ours.
That's
Yeah.
I think that's pretty common with food wars. In Ghana, it's jollof. Like, we make the best jollof, and then everyone in Nigeria is like, no, no, no,
No,
hold
Jollof is
on, hold
ours.
on.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so maybe, yeah, I'd love to ask you the same question. Like, walk me through kind of the journey that took you, I mean, all the way to DC and the Changemakers Conference today.
Yeah, it's crazy because like the first time I, started with Yes, we had to do our pre-departure orientation in DC. And that was my first time coming here. And I was 15 years old. I'm 27 now. So I feel like I've done this full circle and finally kind of come back to where it all started. But after my program in Thailand, Avery, to be honest, I never really went back to the US. So I applied for United World College.
Mm,
And so then I got accepted, and it was the same like, yes, you get a scholarship and you're like sent, it's like go out in the world and
yep.
thrive. So I was in Swaziland for 2 years. That's where I finished my high school. And then after that, I joined Yale and US. So Yale had partnered with the National University of Singapore to create a new like liberal arts school. So then I did my undergrad there for 4 years. Actually, one of the main draws for me going back to Asia was because of my Thailand experience. I was like, if I'm in
Mm-hmm.
Singapore, I'm going to be so close, to Thailand. And I actually got to go back and visit my host family and visit my
Oh, that's
friends.
great.
Yeah, I did an internship in Bangkok like in 2017. And that was so cool. Like I went back to like my town, like my little village in the south, which is like, I don't know, like 10 hours away from Bangkok. And it was just so cool to like, see how everything is very different, but also completely the same. Like the town
Mm.
is built up, but at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, there's still like the satay seller on the street. So the same
That's
person.
that's great.
Yeah. So essentially, yeah, I mean, I did my undergrad in environmental science. And now that I'm back here, I'm doing my master's at SAIS, like the School of Advanced International
Mm-hmm.
Studies, at Johns Hopkins, in international relations. So it's like kind of coming back full circle to all of that. But
Yeah.
yeah, whenever I tell my story, because when you're networking, you have to always like, talk about who you are. So many times that story really starts with like, yeah, I went abroad when I was 15 and like it was that Pink Floyd moment where like the stream of light hits the pyramid and then refracts and you see the world in all these different colors. Yeah.
Hmm. And was it that for you?
Yeah,
Seems
definitely.
like
Like,
it.
I mean, I guess it kind of started this like lifelong like love affair with Asia. Like my
Mm.
Thai, I would say I don't have not kept up because it's very difficult. I don't have like that many people to practice it with. But I learned Indonesian and I learned a
Mm.
bit of Tagalog as well. And I spent a lot of time in India. Um, so I definitely see myself going back to Asia. But I wanted to ask, so when you were in Ghana, did you learn any Twi?
Yeah, I mean, yes. So I have not kept up with it as well as I would like. I still know basic greetings and the name of some obscure food
SSA.
items. Yeah, yeah, Moye. Um, I so when I was going to cooking school, a lot of my fondest memories, honestly, of Ghana are from going to the local markets and interacting with the sellers and I'd say at least maybe 15-20% of the conversation would be in tree. So um, like it was actually pretty hilarious. Like I would know how to say pretty much every fruit and vegetable or like meat or seafood in tree, but I never really like learned that much conversational aside from greetings. So I would like my conversation was literally like, hey there, like I'll buy 20 tomatoes, which, like the whole bargaining process. But then when it came to the actual like interacting, like I would be at a loss and it would go back to English, of course. Um,
Right, right. Yeah, because people speak English there as well. Yeah.
yeah,
So,
and one of the really cool things about Tree as well was like there were times when I would be speaking Tree and someone would be speaking like a related dialect back to me, and we would still be able to understand each other because of like a shared ancestry, even if the
hmm.
pronunciation was different a little.
Did people call you, what is it, Obroni?
Yes, of course.
Obroni.
It's impossible to escape.
Yeah.
Um,
So
yeah.
for our viewers, Obroni is like what you call a white person
Yep.
over, yeah, in Ghana.
Yeah.
Like, I guess because I'm hoping that some of the people viewing are like prospective students.
Hmm.
Definitely, now that some programs will be going back to in person, hopefully, it's a really good time to like get out and see the world after being stuck in one place for so long. So,
Yep.
like, what would you say about having, kind of navigated always being the Obroni? Like, how was that for you?
Yeah, it was honestly, it was a very interesting experience. I mean, like growing up white in a predominantly white suburban community, you never experience, really
Where are you from again?
Southwest Florida. So, um,
Okay, like the Panhandle.
no, Southwest. So more like Tampa, like 2 hours
Oh,
south of
okay.
that. Um, it was, I think you learn a lot. And like, while of course I can't speak to, being a minority in America, by any means, I think that like being different, obviously it comes with its pros and its cons. I mean, you know, to some extent, I was like the first
Makes
American
you
many
very
people
like
met.
self-aware, right?
Yeah, exactly. So like, you know, I'm the first American people met. Like, you know, I played soccer in some local fields and people like called me like Captain America or like Landon Donovan, who was the most famous player at the time.
Right.
Um, and then like, you know, it it's just like an ever like you very much feel your like like
You're
difference
always
with
being
the
seen.
locals.
You're always
Yeah,
being seen.
exactly.
That's
Um,
interesting because like my experience, because I like am somewhat like, I'm half Filipino, right? So I can kind of blend, right? The only thing that marked me as different from my classmates was that they didn't make me cut my hair, right? Because all the girls would have to
mhm,
have their hair cut to here. So that's the only reason that people thought I was, not Thai. But it was
mhm,
interesting because when I would travel around Thailand with another exchange student who was, white, blonde hair, blue eyes, people would come up to her without even asking and like start touching her hair and touching her skin. And at first I was like, I'm not getting that attention. And they don't see me as like a real American. But I realized very quickly like that gets very old, because they're
mhm,
just, your space is getting violated and all these things. And then I think as I've gone on, and especially after like the 2016 elections and just everything that happened since then, there's this whole, and Black Lives Matter, of course, there's this other side of America that doesn't normally have a mouthpiece, when you're
mhm,
overseas, or it's not what people think of. So when I get told you're not like a real American, I'm like, what do you think a real American is? Because now it's much more multifaceted and so much more in the media than it ever
mhm.
used to be.
Yeah,
But
that's fascinating. I mean, yeah, like at in like obviously I can't speak to the experience even of my peers on my same program, but you know, it was just very fascinating, like the just implications of being an American and you know even being a well, not me but like some of my peers are African American as well, and you know they were still seeing like just the experience of like otherness is so present no matter what your race is as long as you're an American, and it was just fascinating to observe and to listen from an outsider POV. Um,
yeah, there was I read this book as part of my curriculum for this comms class. It was called The Ugly American. Have you heard of
oh
it?
yeah,
Yeah, that's a classic. So for anyone watching, that's a very good book to read about just about kind of a different side of, American foreign policy and diplomacy and all that.
yeah.
Um, yeah. So I was going through like some of the questions earlier, and like there were some that I kind of wanted to ask you. So like, was there like any like, okay, let's say two moments, like a high and a low on the program, and how did it like kind of actually this is just my own question. Like, how did it kind of influence like the rest of like your time there, and like when you look back on it, the way you talk about it now?
Yeah. Um, I mean, well, first of all, maybe I'll start with the low and end with the high. I mean, you know, I would say at some point towards the middle of the experience, like 10 months, it both flies by and it is, you know, towards the middle, it can kind of drag a little bit. And it's all about maintaining like the right attitude and mindset. I think towards the middle, I got a little bit homesick, especially as my brother was getting married here in the U.S. And you know that was a pretty difficult time, and you know I like really just had to push myself and regroup mentally and just like you know kind of just go back to the basics of why I'm doing this and have that sense of purpose and mission. And, you know, that was probably month 4. By month 5, month 6, I was like, this is going way too fast. Um, and like suddenly the months felt like days. In terms of the high, like towards the end of the my time in Ghana, the Travel Channel actually found my blog and they reached out, and so I was
That's
able
so
to
cool. Do you get published?
not published, but I helped them film 2 documentaries, which ended up premiering on the Travel Channel. Um,
Wow,
and so I
that's
was kind of,
incredible.
yeah, no, it was honestly the 3 days of filming were some of the best days of my life. It was just such a high, and I was able to use everything I learned from cooking school in order to showcase a cuisine that I just fell in love with when I was there, and to eventually just bring that to the larger world. And so that was just like incredible to participate in.
So do you still cook a lot of Ghanaian food?
Not as much as I'd love to, because I just, well, one, I don't cook that much, but two, some of the ingredients are harder to find, especially some of like the preserved fishes and so on. But I do still cook some dishes. Like I don't know any places to get okra stew, and so I have to make that myself, and it's just incredible, that dish. Like,
Yeah. These are all like kind of long term or like kind of labors of love, you know.
yep,
You have to take the whole day and let the flavors mix, right?
yep, it has to get sufficiently like slimy. It is the best soup. It's just like, and you have to eat it with your hands, because otherwise you don't get the texture, and that's like part of the experience.
I know what you mean. Yeah, like I finally learned how to like eat with my hands, I don't know, after like many years of being in Asia. And it was a totally different experience. Some people say it's because like your own like oils mix also in with the food. So I don't know if there's anything scientific to that, but yeah, it is a very different experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
What?
mean, Thai food, like for me, is like I just like had Thai food for dinner with some of the other AMS volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
It was good, but it wasn't spicy because,
Yeah.
America. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, let me think. If I were to answer the same questions about the
Yeah,
highs
yeah.
and the lows, I mean, the low is always clear, right? It was like after my first day of school. Okay, so like I said, I'd never been outside the US, so I didn't really know what humidity was, right?
Totally, totally. I
Like
thought I
I
knew
just had,
because I was from Florida, but that was not the case.
right, right. I think, yeah, probably the humidity is around the same between where I was and Florida. But yeah, I had to wear a school uniform for the first time, so I was like kind of feeling very clunky and uncomfortable with like these belt buckle shoes. At that point in time, because I was a teenager, I used to straighten my hair, or I tried to, right? So I was just feeling really unkempt, feeling really uncomfortable, couldn't understand anything that was said the entire day at school.
Mhm.
Everybody's like talking to me, America, do you know Obama? Like,
Yep.
and I'm just, I don't know. It was like funny, but also I was like, I can't communicate. And so I got
Hmm.
home and I remember sitting down on my bed and just thinking to myself, like, if I don't learn this language, like I'm not going to be able to like have friends. I'm not going to be able to express who I am or my ideas. Um, and so that was a low moment, but it was
Hmm.
also that
Hmm.
moment that made me switch and be like, now you're going to have to like try as hard as you can just to like put all the effort you can into like building a life here. So actually what I did is I took the post-it notes and I would like label things in the house. So
Hmm.
like the window would be nadang and the door would be brakdu and things like this.
That's great.
And yeah, I mean the host family was super chill, so they let me do that. And I had a neighbor as well who would like sit with me every day after dinner, like kind of just on the side of the street. They would play cards, but I had like a deck of like 1,000 Thai flashcards, so every night they would go through them with me. Um,
Mm.
so there's a lot of support. Um, the high moment. So I don't know, in Ghana, do they sing the anthem every morning, like when they do a school lineup or something like this?
Yeah, there was like a kind of near like the track field. There would be a big event, and then people would go off to the classrooms.
Okay, yeah. So we had the same thing every morning, but instead of a field, it was kind of like an open like courtyard. And so every morning, somebody would like from the different classes would go up on the podium and start singing the anthem. They'd sing the first line, then everybody else would join in. And I, as a joke, I was like, "Oh, I should go up there and do it." And my friends were like, "Okay, one put na, like Wednesday, huh? Wednesday." And I was like, oh, "They're not serious." And then on Wednesday came around, they're like, "Okay, like we're going now." And I was like, "Oh my God." I mean, I was lucky because I
Wait, did
actually
you
at
know
that
the
point I
anthem?
did know how to sing it because
Okay,
this
good.
was like month 8 or something. But I remember going up there on that podium, and it was a big school. It was like 2,000 kids looking out, singing the first line by myself. And then suddenly, when everybody joined in, it was just like that collective energy just
Wow.
lifts you back up. So that was definitely like the high moment because it was like I can sing it, and they understand it, and they're following along with it. So
It's incredible. Like
yeah,
conducting an orchestra.
yeah. I mean, I can't sing at all, but yeah, yeah. But it is kind of that similar sense conducting an orchestra. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, have you been back by the way?
Yeah, when I was in undergrad, I participated in semester at sea, and so Ghana
Wait,
was a
which
6 day
year?
stop. Spring 2014.
I think we were on the same ship.
Wait, what?
Yeah, this is why I remember because I remember seeing you since then. Yeah. That's why I was like, Avery Segal, this name is very familiar. We were on the same ship.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Spring
Huh.
2014. Yeah, the one around. So I was also working in the AV. So like when we would have the presentations and the kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
yeah, so I was kind of that was my work study job as well on the ship.
Oh,
Yeah, I
interesting.
remember seeing you there. I was like, no, I think I've seen him since then.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's pretty wild.
That is
Um,
wild.
yeah, and it was just like a really funny experience almost because, like, the nature of the ship is there's not really internet. Like, you can email, but you can't really do much else. And so I wasn't
Underwear.
really even able to tell people I was coming. And so I ended up just like surprising people, and I like literally knocked on doors, and I was like, "Hey, long time no see, like great to see you." And like one person literally asked me like, "Are you a ghost?" Like, um, but no, it was. I I mean that was 5 years post, or wait, that was not 5 years. That was like 3 years post experience.
Mm.
It's actually on my list to go back in the near term. I would love to.
Yeah. I mean, are you able to keep in touch a lot with your family?
Um, Not as much as I'd like to, for sure. It, I mean, I had a fantastic homestay. Like I really, that was part of the experience that I think I learned the most about, or from being a part of. Um, and I would absolutely love to go back. And I was kind of like the, my host mom's first kid, quote unquote. And since
Mm.
she's had two kids who I would love to meet, brothers, quote unquote, brother and sister.
That would be so cool. Yeah. Wow. So yeah, you did get to go back in 2014, but it's still been a while since. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I also visited when I was in Ghana. I went from Accra to Takoradi in like
Mm-hmm.
the little like minivans.
Tuk tuk.
Uh,
Yep. Or wait, not tuk tuk.
yeah.
Trotro.
Trotro. Yes, it was a
Yep.
Trotro. Um, but yeah, it was the same thing. I wasn't able to like email ahead of time because people aren't really using email that much.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I get one phone number, but I ended up just showing up in the village, which was called Ofunkor. I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
maybe you know it. It's a little bit outside of Ghana. And then, yeah, I mean, people recognized me, and a lot of the kids, because it had been 3 years, I
Mm.
can see the face is the same, but they're like 1 foot taller.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Total flashbacks here. I'm just remembering like literally taking Trotros to my English teacher's house and like just surprising him, and his name English name was Ringo, and we would just chat about like music and Beatles and literature, and yeah. Um, hmm. So like I guess what originally inspired you to apply in the first case? Like, is
Yeah,
it
I
something
feel
you
like
knew you wanted to do?
I was super young, right? I was 14 when I found out about Yes Abroad, and it wasn't a program that had any legacy to it at that point in the US because it was the first year they were sending students. So, I mean, I just found it on our school bulletin board
Hmm.
because I had finished early with something. So that was like January of 2009. And I applied just off of a whim, actually. So before that, like all of my free time was like martial arts. Like I just wanted to be a
Hmm.
black belt. That was my thing. And once I got it, I was like, now what? Like what's the next thing? So yeah, I found this program. I applied. They invited me to Houston. I told my parents I was like going to go for a karate tournament. So they weren't really like aware of the gears happening until I got the offer. And then I told them, listen, I applied to this program, State Department, and all these things. And then of course they were supportive.
Hmm.
But they were definitely shocked because nobody else in my family like had gone overseas or anything like that. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't think I really knew much. Like when I was listing the countries at that time, it was just 7 countries we could go to.
Hmm.
Um, I just chose Thailand because I wanted to learn Muay Thai, right? So sometimes you just
Great
never
reason.
know like what kind of those small like sparks of inspiration are going to lead, what paths they're going to lead you down. So, I mean, it's always good to just follow them through to the end. So
Hmm.
anybody considering the program, definitely just, apply, first and see what happens. Yeah.
totally.
What about for you? Like, I mean, did you, because you did it later, you did it a lot later as a gap year.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was, I don't know if my rationale was that much different than yours. I mean, I, throughout the interview process, I think I also applied on a whim, and in part because I was just inspired to learn more and live abroad in another culture. And then throughout the interview process, I just really, we went deep on the mission and the values, and I like I was just really bought in, and wanting to make a difference and be a student ambassador and represent the U.S. and countries with significant Muslim populations. I couldn't agree more with like in terms of this is a program that creates value. And so I think Ghana wasn't originally near the top of my list. I was an alternate, but never give up. It just ended up working out, and I, everything happens for a reason. There's a lot of scholarships for sure out there. This one I think has just very good mission and values behind it, but definitely there's a lot of State Department and even like local and organizational scholarships out there.
Yeah. And I would say, like, I mean, doing yes is what got me into that sort of network to understand what the scholarships are out there. So even when I was introducing myself the other day and saying all the places I've lived since, they're like, how do you fund that? I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I scholarships 100%,
Yep.
you know, like,
Yeah.
like Swaziland was full scholarship. My whole thing in Singapore was funded actually by the Singaporean government. So, but once you're kind of in those networks, you begin to know, like,
Totally.
of course, then Boren and Fulbright and CLS and Nestle Flex, and it's like it's a whole ecosystem.
Yep.
And it's quite supportive. Once you do one, you kind of like learn about the rest. But I mean, I was actually really surprised I got it because I was the youngest at the selection camp, and I had just broken my wrist, so I was like this like awkward
Oh.
like freshman with her cast arm in a cast, and most of the people there were like high school juniors and seniors, and so I definitely was feeling like out of my element. But at the same time, it was like, well, I'm probably not going to meet these people again, so I should just try to get to know them as best as I can and learn from them. So I remember like one of the first activities that we had to do, it was like without talking. This was like the first icebreaker. You had a bunch of materials on the table, like cans, straws, tape, some other things. And without talking for under like 2 minutes, you had to build a tower as tall as possible with your teammates at the table. So I don't know exactly what happened, but at the end of it, what we decided to do is like I and one other girl stood on the table with the straw in our mouths, connected to the thing, and pull it up. So ours was actually the tallest. So I mean, that was
Wow.
just like a really fun, creative thing. Like these people I don't even know, but suddenly you're able to communicate. So that was kind of my first glimpse into how like intercultural communication might be.
Mm-hmm.
It's like so much nonverbal.
Totally. And just to go back to your point on, living abroad and scholarships, like there's just so much opportunity out there. It's, I literally, one of my years living in China, we had two dedicated scholarships for my school to live abroad in China, fully funded, for 1 year and go to a Chinese university of your choice. I was the only person to apply my year. So
Yeah,
like,
and that's what
yeah.
it's crazy. Like there's so many opportunities, but I think people, put it off or procrastinate
Mm-hmm.
or decide, maybe next year. But I mean, I think what the pandemic showed us better than anything else, like there's no time like now to like go out and grab
Mm-hmm.
those opportunities because I mean, imagine you wanted to do something, you're planning 2020, I'll go abroad. Then 2020 happened and it's like international travel, it's going to be very hard to get it back to what it used to be. Um, and obviously, like, there's just so many more restrictions now than there ever used to be.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I'm really glad that I got in all these years of travel before the pandemic. And I was actually on a panel like maybe 4 or 5 months ago for like current yes participants doing their program virtually with the alum. And a lot of them were bummed out because like, they had to stay in the US. They just talk to
Mm.
their host family once a week. They do some language classes. But what I told them is like, even though obviously it's not what you wanted out of an exchange experience, you're still building that relationship so that once things do change and the situation changes, you already have that connection. You're going to be able to go there and have a different experience than you would if you were like a tourist, because yeah, so things happen for a reason. That's kind of what I was telling them as well. But it's still hard to hear because you
Hmm.
know
The disappointment, yeah. But
yeah,
that seems like an amazing way to get, local connections and build those bridges and have them formed and ready for the post-pandemic era. Fingers crossed.
exactly, exactly. Oh, I want to introduce you to someone. So this is Froshkan. He's the AFS director for the Philippines.
Hey,
Hi
Freshman, nice to meet
everyone.
you.
Yeah,
Nice to meet you too. How are you guys?
we're good. So Avery was hosted in Ghana
Okay.
the 2 years after me for Yes. So Frosh, you were also Yes, right?
Yes, I was in South Carolina in 2005. I belong to the second batch of students from the Philippines.
Yeah. So he's from Mindanao, right? Zamboanga.
Yeah, Zamboanga
Zamboanga.
City.
Yeah, sorry, you were gonna use the bathroom. I'll let you go. But I mean, like, so Frosh, like, I met him first in 2011 at like a Yes orientation camp in DC, and then when I was doing research in the Philippines, obviously I met him again for some camps there, and now we're here. So I mean, it's really amazing. Like these networks kind of keep you coming back and forth, and I can't believe that we forgot we were on the same ship for a semester. That is so funny.
I don't know how that never came up.
No, I mean,
That's
I now I remember, but I had forgotten before. Yeah.
wild.
Yeah.
Have we gotten any question? I don't know how Instagram Live works, quite honestly. Um,
Yeah. Wait, let me check. Um, I was supposed to look at the stories before.
oh,
Can I still do it?
I
Hold
don't
on.
know if you're hosting a live.
If I press X, I'm afraid it will go away.
I feel like it will.
Yeah. Well, I can take the questions after as well and then
Okay.
ask. But if anyone else watching has any questions for us, we'd be very happy to answer. Um, or just in general, if anybody wants to reach out. Um, if there's any like prospective students or parents thinking about applying and kind of want to know more, the alumni are a resource that are always like very happy to help. Oh, we do have a question. What's your favorite memory with your host family? Thanks, Numwan. You want to go first, Avery?
Um, Actually, do you have something off the top of your head? I'm scouring my brain.
Um, yeah, it would probably be, let me think. It would probably be those nights, like I mentioned, where it would be after dinner and we lived in like this kind of small alley, right? And everybody will kind of sit out and like play cards or sepak takraw, which is like, so you have this woven rattan ball and you can hit it with everything except your hands. So even your shoulders and your elbows and your heads. So, people would be playing sepak takraw. And then I would come out there with my host mom and my neighbor. And then they would like help me with these flashcards and we would have like mango sticky rice and things like this.
Ooh.
So, I mean, it was
Hmm.
really just those simple moments, but it was like nobody was in a rush, nobody was hurried,
Hmm.
and they were all like very invested in me, like learning all this vocabulary. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, probably that.
I mean, yeah, like I've been raking my brain trying to think of something, extravagant or like what was the highest of the highs. But honestly, it really is just about those relatively simple experiences that, make you feel at home. Like, um, for instance, banana bread, which, you know,
Oh no, we lost him.
oh, can you hear me now?
Oh, you're back. Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so an example is one day I made banana bread for the family. And, like banana bread, all of the ingredients exist in Ghana. Like, they're all pretty common ingredients, but like they had never had it before. They had never had the combination of ingredients in the cooking method that creates, a magical, warm, melty, vanilla-y experience. And so I think I made it and I was like, kind of glancing over like, what do they think? How is it? And I think at first my host mom was like, yeah, it's okay. And then like, more and more of the tray is disappearing over time. And um, yeah,
That's
besides
the best
that,
way to
like,
somebody's
yeah,
heart, honestly. Like just cook for them or bake for them.
yep.
Um, yeah.
And
Actually, that's another really funny thing. I did not understand like the importance of food before I went to Thailand. Like I thought it was just something that you like do like when you have a break from school or like, people make such a big deal about like meals and like all these things. And I went to Thailand and then I was like, okay, I get it. Everything happens around food. And it's ironic because like I actually did most of my undergrad research and what I'm doing now is all food
mm,
policy research. So, I mean, I think maybe just because like in America, like, food and holidays are very important, but I mean, we probably don't eat as many meals together as a family,
totally.
that I ever had when I was overseas. So
Yeah.
it's a very different, also much more collective sense of family. Um,
Hmm.
and I would say for anybody who's like kind of afraid of like leaving their high school, leaving their group of friends, leaving their community, one of my friends asked me like, why do you want to go overseas? Like, don't you feel quite established here? And my response to that was like, yeah, I feel established here, but haven't you ever wondered if you could feel established somewhere else? Right? Because you get to build a new life and kind of, you know, grow new parts of
Hmm.
yourself,
Yep.
um, that can take you all over the world on semester at sea,
Hmm.
all these different paths to China, to Swaziland. So, yeah, I would say there's nothing to be afraid of. It's just new parts of yourself that you haven't met yet.
Yep. And you can turn the uncomfortable into the everyday, and you really learn how to wear multiple skins and or wear multiple hats and be comfortable really no matter where you are. Which, I still find extraordinarily valuable to this day in my professional career. Like I think a lot of that I attribute to both my time overseas and then also improvisational theater. They
Oh,
kind
oh,
they kind
cool.
of go hand in
Do you
hand.
still do improv?
Not as much as I'd like, but I still love it.
I feel like there's a very good scene for it in the Bay Area.
Yeah, well, yeah. I recently moved to LA actually, but still probably a great scene here.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, especially in LA, now that things are coming back to in person.
Yep.
Sky has a question for us. What skills do you guys feel like you developed on program that you all use? Hmm. You want to take this one first?
Sure. So, I mean, I just kind of mentioned, really the ability to wear multiple hats. I think that's key in terms of just, you know, the first step to being able to own a skill set is almost like pretending you own a skill set and like improving till you make it. And I really learned that firsthand when I was living abroad. In addition to that, I think really just like cross-cultural communication is huge, especially as, currently a product manager who's working on what should be like a inclusive app that is able to be understood and functional to people with all sorts of backgrounds and lived experiences. And then maybe one more is really just like I think just kind of like a love of oh wait, was it skills or interests?
Learning. Oh,
Learning
skills.
skills. Okay.
But being
Um,
curious, I feel like, is something
yeah,
that can be honed and developed, not
yeah,
just straight.
totally. And I like curiosity and like a love of learning, like even though it's a bit softer of a skill, like that is just so important if you're especially in tech, but in the broader workforce, like you need to be able to approach a problem from first principles thinking. And I think when you're living abroad, you're getting first principles thinking because you're just like encountering maybe similar problems, maybe new problems, and you kind of have to go back to the root and overcome them just in your everyday life, whether it's learning a new language, whether it's acclimating, like getting in, like integrating into your school, your community, and the like.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. That adaptability, that versatility. Because I also worked in startups,
mhm.
between undergrad and my master's. I mean, it was fully in startups. And I mean, the problems that you're confronted with, you have to solve in creative ways. And so,
Yep.
like I was saying, like, okay, let me like learn my vocabulary by like, labeling with post-it notes around the house. Like you have to kind of bring that energy, I think, to kind of be successful in whatever you do. And being an exchange student, puts you in the position where you can thrive doing that. Actually, yeah, one of my mentors back in Seattle, what he said to me once, he's like, Alaine, you're like a weed. You could throw you anywhere in the world and you'll grow and you'll thrive. And I was like, that's an interesting way to put it. I think it's a compliment.
Yeah. I
Right?
don't know. I don't know about the metaphor exactly, but I
Right.
like it.
But the idea, right? So I'd say, yeah, I mean, it's really that, you know, if we're talking about flexibility and adaptability as a trait, just to always remember, like, there's a saying in Thai is sabai jai. Sabai is like easygoing, relaxed, and jai is heart. So sabai sabai is like, okay, everything's comfortable. But when you say sabai jai, it's the feeling, it's the emotion of letting things roll off of you and not getting stressed out and not sweating the small things. So, you know, I had to practice that every day because it's like you think you're going to go one place and then the plans change, but your language skills aren't there yet. So you don't understand. So you're like just waiting around for like 3 hours, or, you know, people are trying to talk to you, but you can't reply back. You have to be patient with yourself and be patient with the process. Like, I remember when I was waiting for my bus to go from my town back to Bangkok at the end of the year, we were all just sitting around on the curb, like just talking and chatting the same way I would do with my friends in Seattle, right? And I was like, oh my God, like it happened, right? And at the end, it feels like it does go in the blink of an eye. So yeah, that ability to kind of just put yourself into a new community and be an important part of it. You know, any school, any club, any company you go into, that's going to make you really valuable. Yeah. So that's what I say I still use.
100%.
Yeah. People skills, simply put. Yeah. Well, we're just approaching 45 minutes, so I don't know if there's any final questions people want to throw to us, or we can kind of close out as well with maybe this is a question I always like to ask whenever I'm talking to people, like if you had to describe your like yes abroad year in like 3 words, like what words would those be?
Only 3. Can they be hyphenated? No, just saying. Let's see. Without, you know, being too generic, I suppose. Maybe like, I mean, transformative, maturing, and Obroni. Does that count?
I was wondering if you were gonna say that.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. Well, I was gonna also say transformative. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely like, it was in a sense, I don't know if it was provocative or evocative, because it just like brought out a lot of things in myself that I was like, oh, I didn't know like the world was this way. And like, it just kind of like inspired me to want to learn more and keep traveling and learn more and more and more about the world. So evocative, I guess. I mean, transformative. Yeah, I wanted to also say it was catalyzing. It was catalyzing for a lot of the things I did afterwards. So evocative, catalyzing, and then I guess warm, not just in terms of the weather, but when I think back on that year I had there, like I felt very like I put so much into like, you know, being with my host family, being with my friends at school, that I always felt like, I don't know, a sense of warmth, you know, just being there. So when I went back to Tungsong in 2017, it was just like this homecoming, right? So, oh wait, sorry, we do have one question from Equatorial Girl. Hi, Equatorial Girl. Are you at the equator?
Hello.
I want to know. She asked, did your yes experience influence your college major and or career choice? If so, how?
You want to go first?
Sure. Yeah. I guess for mine, so my I mean, like I said, me going to Singapore for college was absolutely 100% influenced by me being in Thailand and Southeast Asia. In terms of my major and career choice, the reason I chose environmental science is because I just saw how it kind of connected everywhere in the world. Like, we don't have a planet to live on, we don't have anything else. So that was definitely related with kind of the global perspective that I got from being an exchange student, to see how interconnected things are and see how interconnected people are. Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely. I mean, maybe not in like a one-to-one type fashion, maybe like it did for some of my peers, but I think like, you know, without the experience of living abroad and becoming a member of a community and really experiencing another culture. I don't, even though I didn't necessarily go that much further in Ghana, I kind of turned my pursuit towards China afterwards. I do feel like that was kind of the catalyst for like my international, globally oriented focus. And I think that, you know, I ended up majoring in history, in part just because of its close link with culture and just trying to understand societies. And I think that without, you know, that lived experience, I really can't imagine how I would have ended up in tech today, which is kind of a weird transformation, but at the same time, like, you know, my area is very much globally inspired, and I kind of see that as my edge in the tech space. So it maybe is a bit of a windy journey, not one-to-one, but I do see it as very related.
Yeah. I mean, the linear path is the quickest, but that's not the most scenic, right? And I mean, anybody who's, you know, if you want to get through high school and get through college, you're not going to do an exchange because, you know, you are not going to be on a certain path of getting a certain number of credits and stuff like this. But the networks that you start to build, and the other skill sets like we talked about already, like, yeah, I think those continue to add value to your life. So it's not, like you said, it's not a one-for-one thing, but yeah, I'm going to just post here a comment for people who are watching if you want to reach out to us. My Instagram is Insane Alaine, and then did I put your handle in there right, Avery?
I don't know. I don't think I can see the same screen you're seeing.
Oh, it's just the comments below.
Oh, I also can't see the comments below. I think it might be host
okay.
only.
Okay. Well, yeah, I've been reading them out to you as we come along. But yeah, so I think then, yeah, oh my gosh, we've been talking for an hour. Anyways, I'll definitely text you later because I want to catch up on the semester at sea thing again.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, so to all our viewers, thank you for tuning in and listening to a couple of seasoned veterans. I mean, it's kind of hard to talk about the exact details of our time there because it was so long ago, but I think the main thing is like this really kind of just, you know, set us on these different paths that were winding and scenic, and, you know, everything kind of starts. And this is such an amazing opportunity. And the Yes Abroad alumni community now is so big. So it's something that you're going to kind of keep learning from and getting opportunities from the people who are also in the community and in the program. So just apply, put some time into your essays. There's lots of resources online. Yeah, and reach out to us.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So then I will go ahead and end the live. All right. Avery, take care. I'll talk to you soon.
Yep. Likewise. Bye all.
Okay. Good night. Bye.